Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Mark. This is Spiguyver Backpacking. And if you look on the sign behind me, you'll see where I am today. That's right. We are at Dutchware Gear today. So let's go in, check it out, see what's going on. So right now I'm actually waiting for Dutch to get here. He'll be here in just a little while, but I'm here in his conference room and he's got a wall with about 20 of his patents hung up in here. And so it's kind of cool to be able to see like some of the ideas that he's come up with and how long before we actually see those ideas materialize that the patents were put out. So if we look at something like a quilted hammock, you know, we just saw the quilted chameleon come out over the last year and a half, but this was a patent that he put out in 2018. So really cool. And then you've got some of the titanium gear that he's done over the years. That's kind of where it started. You know, those cool little things that he came up with while he was out on the AT that have evolved, started this business, and to see where it's grown. I actually was sitting here with Fee talking through like some of the things that they do. And, you know, we think about the hammock side of things. We think about the gear, the backpacking side of things. But there's so much more. They actually are doing like car components, like shift boots for high-end cars out of Alcantara, with really like the custom stitching and stuff like that. They do stage work stuff for, you know, plays, concerts, different things like that. Banners, you know, they've got the banner up here, the Dutchware banner, but they can do printed banners for advertising, things like that. So it's all those other little things that you don't think of that they're doing, evolving their business to make sure that it continues to grow and become something that's not pigeonholed into one thing. I think that's really cool to be able to diversify, pick up more things, and use that to help grow really your core business. It's what it's all about. It is kind of the American dream to be able to start from something small, grow it, and continue to evolve. And that's definitely what they're doing here at Dutchware.
We're putting the ink to paper, and it just holds it till we dye sublimate it.
Okay. So why does it go to the paper first?
Well, we need to put the pattern down on here, and it's gonna hold it on here. It's not even gonna look very vibrant. It doesn't even look like exactly what you're gonna make. Colors are all off. But then when we run it through the heat press, which is where we'll go next, it turns it into a gas. You run it with the white material, and it transfers that material, and then you get the vibrancy and the exact pattern of what you were trying to lay down.
Okay.
So you don't know really the final product until after you print it.
Interesting.
This is our kitchen. We package up our freeze-dried foods here.
Okay. How much freeze-dried stuff are you doing right now?
We're doing pretty much, but we got to keep adding to it, and it is so hard to keep our. I really want this to be a website on its own. And it's Dutch's Trail Magic, where we just offer for hikers to be able to put meals together by. That way, if they have dietary needs or something like that, they can. They can't have cheese, so they don't put cheese in their meal and stuff like that, or they don't want all the salt that you get in today's current meals.
So just piecemeal it, put it together.
Really is meant for a DIYer and the basis of a meal.
Yep. No, I know. I've bought some of the stuff before, and it's good.
We don't have enough ingredients though right now to do it.
Right.
We got a lot of cheese, and we do a couple meats.
Cheese is good.
Cheese. Yep. These test our fabric so that we can test the waterproof rating. We can test the tear strength. Batches come in. We make sure that we're getting consistent. It's real important because when tarps are failing, it's too late to find out your fabric wasn't waterproof. You know?
I agree.
So when the batches come in, we we test on there, and it tests the pressure, and it kind of helps me to keep an eye on the suppliers and to make sure the suppliers are giving us what we're exactly ordering, and they know that I do it, so it helps to get that you don't have problems.
So when you get something in and the material says it's normally at 1,000 hydrostatic or whatever, how close is it when you guys test on it?
Usually they exceed it by a lot.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
And when they say it's going to be 1,500 hydrostatic pressure, and that's what we wind up putting on our website, but usually we're testing it We've been as high as 4,000 on them, and that has been, I don't know, I've seen that go down over the past year or two, but we're still like well above it. Okay. But it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, we used to be at 4,000 this. I know we're saying 1,500, but can we get back to 4,000? So,
very cool.
This is our 3D printer. What's neat about this thing is everything in this machine, it made. Everything orange that you see, it made itself.
Oh, that's really cool.
But we have a bank of 21 of these down in Atlanta, and when we want to do production parts, you know, we can change the design and we can send it down to them, and then they can produce the product in a much more timely manner than what we can with this one. So we definitely use it for prototyping. But if you walk around here, you will see orange fixtures everywhere. And
so you're just making them yourself.
And when we need something, like if I need a scraper, I got to decide, is it quicker for me just to 3D print it, or should I go to Home Depot? And usually it's quicker for me just to 3D print it.
That's awesome.
And there's somebody here that's really, really good. John Ziegler, he's really self-taught on many of the design things that we do. Particularly, he's really great at fixturing things. And Dutchware would not be the same without him, because he makes it so that we can make our jobs easier. And very often I'll just bring him a problem, being like, look, this isn't very efficient, and he'll make it better. So this is the dye sublimation. We're currently not running, and it runs tissue paper, and then it's going to run the fabric, and then it's going to run that paper where you saw us printed. You can see right here the how it looks kind of muted.
Yeah.
When it's on the paper, because all that's doing is holding it to holding the ink to the paper, and then it becomes so much more vibrant after we print. It turns it into a gas. It penetrates it. It even penetrates it into waterproof material, which I don't really understand how it does it.
I don't know either.
But I know that when I do it, it comes works out, and it's still waterproof, and you can see the vibrancy right here on this. On the tarp, that it is, it's 100%. I mean,
comes to life.
And then this is the laser cutter, and this thing is serious. It makes our job so much easier. Everything is cut with precision. Everything's repeatable. It even cuts bigger. You'll see that we're cutting a tarp here. And this tarp is bigger than our table, so it's going to cut half of it, and then it's going to run, and it's going to cut the other half. And since it cuts it with the laser, not only am I getting the precision, but also it seals the ends so that
there's no fraying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. It's.
So you just lay it out, and it's all programmed.
Yeah, and we have everything on file. So here you can see it ran, the conveyor belt runs, and now it's going to where it had stopped, and it cuts the other half, because this is an 11-foot, 12-foot tarp.
Over. Gotcha.
It looks like this is a winter tarp, so this thing is actually much bigger. But actually it's not a winter tarp now that I look at it. So the table is vacuumed, so it's sucking everything down there, so everything's nice and even. And in every single case, we are always faster and better cutting it by laser versus.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. There's just too much room for messing up if you're doing it by hand.
Yeah. I mean, before you went and you got some paper pattern and laid everything out, this thing would have it done. So
that is.
What is that you were cutting, Jay?
Falcon tarp.
Falcon tarp. Okay. I was wondering because it did not show the shape of a winter tarp.
Right.
So we bring through orders. As you know, we're really custom, and but we make things that are stock, like a chameleon. Chameleon body would be stock.
Right.
And a lot of the business model is that everything's modular. It's great for the customer, but it's also great for us as a manufacturer because I don't have to make blue hammocks with red tops. I make blue hammocks, I make red tops, and everything gets put together at a certain point. And so we stock a certain amount of those items to make it so that we can ship in a timely manner. And so those are done through the website, and we have purchase orders. And take, for example, this is double Dutch bug nets.
Okay.
So we need to make 10 of these. And this is an internal purchase order that is placed. When the website gets down to a certain level, we get the restock
Just
level.
to restock.
It automatically prints out the purchase order. That follows along with this. Although it's a purchase order, it's really
It's an
a
internal
production
demand.
order.
Yeah.
And then when QCs it, they're saying they're receiving it, and it automatically adds the stock into our website, and everything just keeps flowing, hopefully.
Very cool.
So this is actually fairly new. And then if it is more of a custom item, take, for example, this is an ASIM cover. We do not stock the ASIM covers, and we make them to order so that we will take the actual, this is the actual packing slip that the customer orders. And if there were any notes on here, it would be on here. And really the important part to this is the person that's going to be making this is going to have all the information. If a tarp gets ordered and it has tie outs, or a special location for the tie outs, or things like that, it's all going to be onto this because this is what the customer asked for.
Okay.
We're going to know exactly what the priority list is because everything's going to be able to go by work order.
What's the ratio of stock to custom that you guys do right now?
Well, I would say it's about 1 for 1, but when we're making stock, we're making 10 pieces.
Right. Okay.
And this is always going to be just one.
Just one. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say somebody orders a double layer hammock, and its inside is going to be orange and the outside is going to be blue. The person manufacturing and the person cutting it, and all through the person QCing it, is reading the exact work order that the customer asked for, and that's super important to make it so that the customer gets what they're finally wanting.
Yeah.
Another piece of this is you'll see that this is blue, and every week we change the color of the work orders so that this week happens to be blue. What you don't see here is any yellow ones because yellow ones were last week. And when I go out on the floor and I see a yellow, especially at this point a week,
Wow.
I know that my order is really late, and we know that that's a priority. So that sets things on priority.
Gotcha.
And
that's smart.
And we changed that. This we've changed our process many times, and this is the way it is this year.
For right now.
and some of them get remnants of it, but this one really seems to be working. And we dug ourselves out of a hole from Black Friday sales. We really got backed up on Black Friday, and then everything was just got so difficult because we're managing 600 orders, and that's really hard to do. And if you can keep that down to under 100 orders, it's easy to manage, but that means you got to keep turning them quick. This little cubby hole system has been great for us. These are actually all independent. This is one piece. This is a 4x8 sheet. I forget what it's called, but it's basically the pegboard material without the holes. And we build these, and you'll see these at a whole bunch of different places where we utilize these, and we color code them. You're going to see a lot of color coding on a lot of things because it really helps to identify and make sure things go back to the right place. So there's a cheat sheet on here saying what this is, which apparently is Hexon. All right, this actually is an unsung hero here. This is our cutter, and it measures, and it does it does it with great accuracy and speed. You set it for how many inches you want. It's cutting it with a hot knife. And before that, literally, all of our webbing straps, we did this. 15 feet, cut it with a hot knife. And I got this. I was like, wow, that's kind of expensive for something that just does that. It paid for itself. It paid for itself in like a month with everything that we
So you just input what length that
Absolutely. You go and
spits it out.
You set this up and you're going to input the length. It didn't. It didn't pop up. Why didn't it pop up? Here we go. So this is set for 105.5 inches, and then it cuts it and it does it with a hot knife. And awesome. This is grow grain, our rope, our shock cord, and so much webbing is all cut on here. So and actually we don't replace things, we really fix things.
Yeah.
That we are in, I believe we are in too much of a throwaway society. My dryer is 25 years old because I just keep fixing it, and this thing too. We put a new cylinder on here. We because the machine's still good, and you just got to know what's wrong with it. The heat press, we've taken that heat press completely apart and rebuild it.
Awesome.
We're probably going to do it a third time now. Do
you have someone do it or someone internally?
We do it, and very often it's me.
Awesome. Well, that's really cool.
Our sewing machines. We used to have a guy that came in and serviced our sewing machines, and we had a problem. But he died of COVID, and it was a terrible shame. And well, if there's a sewing problem, I can't wait to bring somebody in here.
Right.
And they are extremely expensive. The last time I brought someone in here to service the sewing machines, it was like an $800 bill. And honestly, when it was done, I was like, he really didn't do. Matter of fact, he made some adjustments that made things worse. The seamstresses were not happy with what they got, and literally, it is me going up there and.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you aren't changing from the machines that you're using, you get familiar with them and you figure it out.
Well, one of the biggest things is getting actual jukey parts to put into it, and I have found through my own error that getting cheap on the parts has not worked well.
Get what you pay for.
And it just works better in the very end, and they last longer. And the machine, I mean, it's not even a matter of the machine works, the machine doesn't work. Sometimes there's not as good parts just don't work as well, but it's not enough to complain.
Right.
But multiply that times 1,000 chameleons, and you've not saved that $10 on that part.
Fair. Yep.
So, all right, here's a machine that I'm really proud of, and I don't think there's many of these here in America. And this is a roll slitter, and we had this thing imported from Italy, and before this, we had a roll slitter that was built literally the 1920s. Matter of fact, the remnants of it is this table. You know how we like to reuse stuff? Well, it used to be only this wide. It was incredibly unsafe, and there was only one person that was even allowed to handle it. That our rolls were longer than it, so we had to like rig something up that hung from the ceiling to support the one end of the roll, and it had all these like chains and gears, and then it comes with a big meat slicer blade that didn't have a guard, and so we always knew, hey, this is what we want to replace, and so we got this thing, and this thing is so sweet. Our longest rolls fit in here. We cut for other companies, and I don't know how to market this better, because I know there's places that there was a printing place that was just right down the street from my house, and literally I just went in and cold called them because they were doing printing.
Okay.
And I just wanted to see what we could do together. And one of the things he does now, he prints on cotton, and he goes and he has his roll slit, but he does it roll to roll. He puts a roll on it, and he pays for people to take 2 knife blades, cut the edges, and then re-roll it. And then, but that would cause fraying and wouldn't be very perfect. So they would put glue on the edges.
Okay.
Well, when he does his printing process, the glue would get in the chains that moved it. And it was like, look at now, rather than doing that whole long roll, and it was expensive. We set the roll up in here. These black rollers are turning, and then we have this fantastic meat slicer blade, which is also turning. This thing is incredibly sharp, and we can move this within increments in here, so it's automatically moved. So I need to move it an inch, it'll move exactly an inch. And that is how we cut, such as our baffle material.
Okay.
For our tarps, in order to do the bonding, we can't cut that with the scissors. We have to have a perfectly good edge, because if it wavers at all, and if it's a wide tarp, we can't cut it on the laser because it's too wide. So we put it on the roll slitter. We cut the whole roll at a time. We're not unwinding and winding back up. We're not putting glue on the edges and stuff like that. And as you can see, we can get pretty darn small with that. We're not going to take off too much scrap. But that customer, we charge him $5 a slit. And he comes in here and he's absolutely delighted. He can come in, he can get a whole skid done and take it right back to his shop. And everything's local. And well, it's really worked well. We've cut, it's how we cut our adhesive when we do our bonding. It's how we cut our tapes, such as when we put the adhesive to the sill to make the reinforcement.
Okay.
We'll cut them up. We even do our stuff sacks, the double-ended stuff sack. We cut the entire roll, let's say it's 14 inches wide, and then we sew the entire roll on the serger machine so that you have a tube. And then we cut those tubes, and then we just do a hem on the end. And it's so much more efficient. And this machine is definitely a key to it.
I was curious when you first started talking about it, what the use was, but now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So there's companies that actually they'll bring in skids, and we will be cutting up their product, and things that aren't like linoleum or something. It just wasn't linoleum, but it's very much like vinyl. Yeah. And they were like 200-pound rolls. It's taken two guys to put them up on here and take them off, and you're kind of, it's not very ergonomic to hold 200 pounds over here like this, but it's maybe one day it'll pay itself back. It hasn't yet, but it definitely gives us more capability, okay, and to do things that we normally couldn't do.
Yeah.
Here's where we make our spreader bar poles for Clark hammocks, and also for the spreader bar bug nets. And we're using solid fiberglass. These are actually, I believe these are really used for kites.
That makes sense. Okay.
Now,
yeah.
Have you ever had, those hollow fiberglass poles? Eventually, one splits, one cracks. You step on one.
Yep.
These don't do that, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, "Hey, I snapped my pole," which is really, that's actually pretty amazing, because there's a lot of these going out for Clarks and spreader bar hammocks. And and then they were getting these ferrules. When we bought Clark, it was this, and the whole process was, in order to make a female, you take a male and you put the female together, and then you would have to epoxy them together, and then the other one, the receiving pole, would have this, and they fit so sloppily in here. It's really, it wasn't really machined the way we really like. And we finally, there was like 10,000 of these that came from Clark when we got it. But all the while, I was working on how we were going to improve that. And we came up with these machined pieces of aluminum that are absolutely fantastic. The tolerance is so much closer on everything. Yeah. And these are 100 machine, they are done down in South Carolina, so it's all done domestically. And as you know, I'm a big supporter. The tolerance between this and the pole is much closer. The failure rate has been much better, and well, they work so much better.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited by that.
It's cool to see that you take on a new product like the Clark, and you don't just let it be. You continue to look at where can we make it better.
I'm sure if somebody went and took over took over myself. You look at something from a different point of view, you're gonna find something that's better.
Yep.
That one actually, I was really glad for because I never liked these. I really never liked that grommet system. All right, shipping department. So we have a lot of different part numbers in order to supply everybody, and we really things like batch stove. So we are the only distributor of batch stove, and when you place an order on his website, it actually comes to our website. He makes these fantastic stoves. He's such a craftsman with this, but he didn't want to be burdened with shipping out all the time. Yep. So we do that, and these things, especially Japan, we get these things in stock, and there's people in Japan that order 20. I don't know. I don't know why. I guess they're reselling them. Can't be using that many stoves, right? But you probably know Sam.
I do.
And he does a fantastic job.
I do. I've got quite a few of Sam's stoves. I think I've gotten one since it came over to you, but I've probably got seven different ones, from external feed ones to. Yeah.
There are such stove junkies in this world. You might be one. Okay, I'm not one really. I use my same Pepsi can stove that I've been using for 20 years. Yep. Paid $10 for it. Yeah. So, anyhow, DAC. We're a distributor of DAC. Yep. Actually had to present to Jake Law to get to be a distributor, but if you really know this stuff, you really get down to the nitty gritty. His poles are better than anybody's. They are. The anodizing is actually done in an eco-friendly way.
Okay.
And it reuses the chemicals that the anodizing is done in, which turned out to be a big boom for him to save money. But I've never seen any of his stuff getting scratched. His anodizing is absolutely fantastic. The poles, the amount of weight, the amount of strength, and the amount of flex that's in this is all really predetermined, and he sets them in micro increments that, I need something a little bit more flexible, we got you, and he has that, or more strength or what have you.
That's really cool.
And then you'll see details like he puts these ferrules in the ends
to keep them from being sharp on the ends.
Yeah, and that way it doesn't get dinged, and then scratches it gets hard to go in and out, and they really are. They're the best poles on the market. I'm so glad to be able to provide them, because before we did this, you couldn't get DAC poles or anything.
I remember there being a time where everyone was out of them.
Yeah, well, they were always very not responsive to anybody from America. I think if you were calling from Asia, there was no problem. But we had tried many times, and then finally I just went and got connected with them, and I actually went over to South Korea and presented to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
I said, I should be your distributor.
And that's the way to do it. I mean, the person-to-person contact, that's always effective.
So our splicing, look how much we keep. These are all tie-outs. This waterfall of the splicing, and all these are already done. We keep the ends open so that we put whatever piece of hardware we want on here. And again, we're trying to make it so that it's modular, so the customer can get a custom setup, and we can ship it as fast as possible. It is a constant struggle. And this is just tie-outs. These are for ridge lines. These are 12-footers. You look over there, and we got a ton of
continuous loops,
whoopee slings, and things like that.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's more all over the place.
So
these bins are filled with. These are continuous ridge lines.
Yep.
And they already got the wasp and the hooks already spliced on them. So, so you order from me, and you want yellow ridge line with a gray soft shackle, and we got you. And stinger's already spliced up. If everything's working right, these bins aren't empty. The customer orders something, and then like, oh, you want two stingers spliced up? Boom, we put them in there. They ship out same day, next day, that type of thing.
Very cool.
So there's there's a lot more splicing throughout the place.
Yeah.
This is, so it all goes by part number, and this is usually the Dutchware products, such as, these are our 3D printed parts. And then it's going to get into our sewn goods, and the goal is to have just a couple of everything. For the DIYers, we really supply any type of buckle you could possibly want. This is one manufacturer. This is Dorflex, but we really have built this over the years that, you know, we'll buy 1,000 of these cord locks, and well, we now carry these cord locks. I'm kind of a Nazi about cord locks. I mean, when I get a cord lock, I go and I put it on the different items, the shock cords, because they don't always work the same.
How they hold. And,
yeah, their strength or weight, and particularly, I don't know, they cheapen out always on the springs, and I when you go and you pull a stuff sack open, it shouldn't be coming open because the cord lock should hold it. So a lot of that has to do with the cord too. You can see the freeze dried foods here, but the real gist of this is we keep a small amount of stock. It's all kept on inventory on the website, and these purchase orders come through, and then we can manufacture them, and ultimately making it so the customer can get the product fast.
I mean, that's always been the hallmark of the Dutchware Gear website is, you know, in the wintertime, you've got the elves putting everything together, and you get it before you even place the order. Yeah. You place your order, walk out to your mailbox, and that's right.
So this is the all the spliced hardware pieces that we have. This is Reflected, ready to go. We just introduced Purple Reflected this past year. It's not as fun to splice as Zing It. So okay, webbing. So most of these webbings we designed ourselves. The spider poly. When I had a hard time getting a manufacturer to make this because it was combining two different materials, and they said it would have waves in it, especially when it's stretched. They would stretch it different. And finally, I'm like, all right, just make it anyhow. and finally, I found someone that would make it. And now you see a whole bunch of manufacturers using spider poly. That's fun. And well, and if they only knew how hard it was to get that R&D done, to get this thing made. The spider webbing, I mean, this is a pair of 5-foot huggers, and it's just absolutely incredibly light. It looks light. 1.5 grams per foot, which is insane. Again, we're keeping a certain amount of inventory of everything. Some has Dutch clips, some of them doesn't have Dutch clips, and all that is so that everything can be moved fast. This is our bling, and this is where we really shine. This stuff is gorgeous. These are the stingers, and here's Dutch clips, which was really my first product, although it didn't look like this. But the quality of these, I mean, it's been a long, slow, make this better, make this better, make this better, and now, I mean, these things are absolutely perfect. They have all these rounded edges.
So how are you getting the rounded edges after they come off? After you laser cut them, what's the process?
We run them on a milling machine.
Okay.
And there's a genius here that has this stuff fixtured so that we don't even know if we're doing it the right way. We just know this is the way we had to do it. I bought a CNC machine, and I went and I asked the guy doing the metal, I'm like, do you know how to run a CNC machine? He said, no. And I said, well,
about to learn.
And he did a very good job. I mean, he took some online courses, but a lot of it was, oh, that's what that button does. Oh, don't hit that button again. But and then we figured out ways to fixture this stuff, so that we could get the quality is just perfect. Yeah. And it's titanium. These things are forever. these will be here longer than you and I. Things, as you know, we have a bug theme going, so we have the wasp and we have the fleas, and if it is a flying, stingy thing, it is going to keep your tarp up, and if it is a parasitic, wormy thing, it keeps your tarp down. It's kind of fun to go and you're making something and you're like, well, what do I now? I have to make it look like a bug. So this is the mantis, and it's a mantis head.
It is. Yep.
And you got to figure out what bug you're going to make this particular item look like.
These are some of my favorites. The ringworms here. These are great for the tarps.
Yeah. They previous to that we had the hookworms and stuff.
Yep.
And
I've got the tarp worms. I've got a little bit of all of it.
The complaint is that we got too small. So that's how the ringworm came about, was because I made this big ring so that you have something that you can hold on to, but it's not going to cause any weight. And the ring really makes for a convenient place to hold it.
It does.
That it holds well. You can get a good grasp of it. We just recently did the beetle buckle with the putting these loops on it. Totally changed the design of it to get it to accomplish that. But this has been our hallmark for a long time. Really, how we got our start. And well, I mean, we make more than you know. I mean, there are pieces that we make for other companies and stuff that they want titanium hardware. I think this goes on to some kind of pack raft or something, and they want something that's going to be incredibly strong, but it's not going to rust, and that's what this does. So, cool. Another thing we do is we buy our titanium scrap, and then we so you cut a reinforcement for an airplane door or a Hummer or something like that, and you get these big pieces of scrap, and we take this scrap and we can make a lot of fleas out of that.
Right. Yeah.
So then we take that scrap, because after you're done with that, it's wasted, and you don't get anything because we don't have enough industry in America to process that scrap. So it probably winds up getting shipped back to China, and but we take that scrap, and instead of shipping it back to China, we turn it into these grills. And now you got little titanium grills, and they actually have my logo on them. We have small ones like that, and we have larger ones that for the fleas. So it is a great way to utilize that. What I really like about it is people will cook their burger or their steak over here.
Seared.
They seared my logo, and there's.
I remember when that first came out, I thought that was such a great idea, that you were finding a way to utilize the scrap and have it be something that people thought was cool. Like, it wasn't just it's junk that someone's getting. It actually became something cool.
Yeah. I actually, it was so popular in the very beginning. Tarp flies was my main product at the time that I couldn't sell enough tarp flies to get. I was running out of grills, so I was doing good until I believe some companies were like, we need 200 tarp flies, and then I was able to produce enough grills to supply the market. Samson rope, we have all the colors of the Samson rope on Zing It. We have extra ones in the Zing It, and also on the Amsteel too. We just introduced dark olive on the Amsteel.
Gotcha.
And this stuff's a lot of fun to bring that color into it, and you've seen all the splicing. One of the things we're looking for, it's not always, but we try to look for American manufacturers like Stick Stasher. I don't know if you've seen these.
I have not seen these.
So these are magnets, and they have these twist locks on them.
Okay.
And you put them on your pack, and then you take your hiking poles, and you stick them on your hiking poles, and they stick there. They are a neat product. But this was a thru hiker that went, and he had a problem, and he figured it out,
innovated a solution,
and he made this. And that's the kind of thing that I'm really going to jump on. I met him down at Trail Days.
I mean, that's how you got started.
Exactly.
So
exactly,
it rings true. Yep.
The small manufacturer, the cottage manufacturer, I always go for something such as that. Our bowl bags is for doing our freeze-dried foods.
Yep.
And we really like the reusable bags. They're high temperature bags, so you can put boiling water in it, and it's amazing how many of those. A lot of people are prepackaging their meals and selling them. Actually, if you remember before the bowl bags, a lot of packaging for freeze-dried foods were long, and you had to buy a long spork in order to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that after I did this, something that's really amazing by this is it doesn't have a corner for you to lose your. The sauce winds up in it. And you get to the very bottom, you're like, oh, all the sauce was in that side of it, and it opens up like a bowl, and you don't need a long spoon and stuff. And after we came up with this, if you look at a lot of, they're exactly this shape. They have exactly where they have the sealed corners, and tear strip, and it is exactly the same dimension. That's so amazing. I think I nailed it good.
Yeah, I would say so. Anytime you're copied, I think that shows you hit it. This
is the Whoopy sling area, so we keep all of our Whoopy slings with the various different hooks that are on there, and we got to keep 1/8 and 7/64. We often use home splicers for doing this.
Okay.
People can do this. We do it piece rate. So
that's cool. That's a good way to do it. That you don't have to employ somebody, have them here the whole time. It's a on-demand type.
Yep. So we go and we'll see here, and we'll be like, all right, we need this, this, this. We give them a spool. They go off a week later. We're getting all that back, and they keep us stocked, and it does great for housewives, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So it
helps the community.
Yeah. Yep. It's worked well. A lot of this stuff it's gotten so good lately with the magnets and stuff.
Yeah.
Then you need one of everything, and then you're going to need 3/4, and you're going to need 1/2 inch, and you're going to need 1 inch, and it just grows and grows and grows. But what's really fun is when I'm designing gear, I come down here and I got everything at my disposal, and I can see how this is going to play with this D-ring, and like you've seen the way the line lock hooks click onto a D-ring, and I never knew it did that. And when I did the chameleon, I was like, oh, look, now I got removable tie outs that I can put onto my chameleon, and so it's really fun to design gear here when you have all this at your access.
So since you brought that up, how much of your time is devoted to designing gear?
I dedicate as much as I can to developing gear, but the development of gear isn't just on me. There's other people that's involved, and so very often I have to stop, and all that other stuff has to happen.
Yeah, I
generally like a full-blown project, like a bridge hammock or something like that. I don't sew that, and
right.
I give that to the seamstresses. So I can sew, and I'll make small things, but when it really comes time to, hey, how are we going to manufacture this? Make it manufacturable, and make it so it's going to be easy and not have errors that are going to hurt our production or cause time consumption. They're the professionals that, and so very often, then there's got to be a training involved in that. So I'll get involved in that, and we'll be designing. We got some really good ones right now, but it then has to go through months and then build a website and do the videos and all the other things that really used to be quick. When I designed the Wasp, it was overnight. I thought about it. It came from the Tarp flies. The Tarp flies were such a pain in the butt to loosen, and then to move that Tarp fly, you had to figure out how to do it. And after many times of having to explain that on an email, I decided to, and I made a video on how to do it that way. I just had to post the video, but I wanted to make that easier. And what I thought about was that hoop that was in between there that you can grab. That was the whole reason for the Wasp. And then, and I thought about that going to the gym, and then I got to thinking, well, that would be really neat, like a dragonfly. And that would be really cool because I got flies, and now I got dragonflies, which are bigger, which totally makes sense. And I'm like, but I'm gonna have to type out dragonfly now all the time when I answer emails. And that's gonna take me 2 seconds longer. So I went and I was thinking about it at the gym, and I got back about 2:00 in the morning. I go and I put a picture of a dragonfly by the computer, got on AutoCAD, drew up the bug, put the holes where it was going to be, and sent it over to the cutter. Got to the cutter by 5:00 in the morning. He cuts it. I go over there. This has all been overnight.
This is a quick process. This is crazy.
And he got it, and it was a dragonfly. But then I was like, that big torso in the middle, that's not needed. So I went back and I chopped out the torso, put it together, added that little stinger on the end that you wrap it around, and sent it over to him. By the time I drove over to him, he had it done. He had one cut, and I looked at him like, that's a wasp. And that drawing has been the same. I went and got on the grinder, did it all by hand and polished it up, had a picture of it by that morning and posted it on the internet. That's how quick it was before.
Yeah.
Now there's part numbers that got to get issues. We got to write SOPs. We got to build out the web page, and it doesn't just go, you made something. It doesn't just go to one web page. Now we have to make that an option for all these different pages, and nothing is quick.
Yeah. No.
We have 3 shipping stations. So we've really automated this. There's a barcode on here, and I'm going to be able to scan this. I'm going to be able to scan this barcode. This customer ordered. You'll notice that our part number is big and bold. The quantity is big and bold because those are the mistakes that people make when they're shipping something. They grab the wrong part number, or they put the wrong quantity in there. Another thing bold is the weight. So it calculates the weight of every order. Sometimes this is 8,000 grams because they're getting a stand.
Okay.
And we when we place the order together, we then weigh every order. And if it's not within 20 grams, we take it apart. Somebody else has to take it apart and sign off on it as to why this didn't weigh. And it is constantly refining. We have so many part numbers, so many places where a part number can be off. If the fabric came in at 1.5 instead of 1.6, that throws off a lot of products, and we constantly have to be monitoring that. However, what this saves you in the end, we make note of it. It does happen. We circle the order number, but we make note of it, and that way we have documentation that we ship them. This actually came from the gold industry because they can't be off on it. So they are verifying that this is what they shipped, and I utilize that. So
that's cool.
And because it has the barcode on it, we just scan it. After we go and we say print a label, everything happens. The customer gets the packing slip, the different places that have to come to pick up from us, UPS and stuff, they're automatically coming, and the order gets closed out on my website, gets marked complete, or tracking numbers are being sent. It's super automated, and there's nobody entering in an address that you would get the address wrong and stuff like that. And hopefully we're mistake free. We're not completely there, but
it's a great system.
Yeah. You can see we go by
the colors.
These are the colors.
Yep.
So this is this week's orders, and this is last week's orders, and we got a couple stragglers out here that we gotta find, and it really helps keep things separated. I mean, these orders actually should be out here, but there's always something that holds things up. Very often it's a customer. Customer says, "Hey, I want to add to that order." It is one of the scariest things you can say to me is I want to add to that order, because it means I got to go and I'm going to have to pause that. It's probably already packaged up. I'm going to have to go find it.
Breaks the system. Yeah.
They're great guys, and they're manufacturing quilts. We did purchase Loco Libre this year, but we still, they have a place in the market. Jacks Are Better makes such a fantastic quilt, such a great product, and I really enjoy partnering with them. These are the zip-on quilts that go onto the chameleon, and it's been a fantastic product, and really they developed that product for me. they said, send me a couple zippers, and I sent them zippers. And
It's awesome.
they're not just partners in this supply chain, but they're really good friends. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're always around, and
Don's fantastic,
great guys.
and we get together whenever we can. But you can see more there, and also this is the real main stock. That's almost like overstock, but we're trying to keep this filled so that it takes a long time to make a quilt, and most quilt manufacturers are going to have you wait weeks, sometimes months. Yep. And I know Loco Libre does, so I know this is true. But here, and actually, their business model has always been to stock and be able to ship right away.
Yeah, I mean that's how I ended up with my first quilt being a Jackson Better.
Because you needed one.
Because you had a hammock in stock, and they had a quilt in stock, and perfect.
You have to be doing a lot of planning to be like, okay, I need a quilt in 6 weeks.
That's
right. And people don't plan that far out. Here again, you can see all the different papers, so that when that way we know what week we're manufacturing on. So the chameleon bodies, the way we used to manufacture them is we used to have, I said make 10 at a time. So we run out of color, we make 10 of them, that way we'll have 10 of them. And that really seemed like it was going to be a great way to manufacture. And then you go to ship, and you come over here, and they order a dark olive hammock, and they're always out of stock. And then I would have like 10 red hammocks because nobody buys a red hammock. So you would have to go, and you would have to not fill that order, and you would have to write up a slip for 10 hammocks to get made, 10 dark olives, and they would go up. Meanwhile, you got more dark olive hammocks coming in, and you don't have your bin's empty, and it takes a long time to make 10 hammocks. So it seemed like it would work, but it didn't work. So we went with, this is called the Kanban system, and
okay. Yep.
we use the Kanban system, not one, but many different. The ordering system that we did for the internal purchase order is a Kanban system. And it just basically means there's a signal, and the signal's telling you manufacture, and then you're going to manufacture that certain amount. Mm-hmm. And what we use is these chips. So you'll really see that I'm really into the color coordination. Like the orders are all going to come out in a certain week, and this chip is blue.
1.0.
Yep. So 1.0 hammocks are blue chips, and then this is a keychain ring, and we just slide in, so it's camo. So we put the camo design in there. Okay. So if this chip fell on the floor, you would know exactly what this is to manufacture. Nobody has to fill out a slip or anything. And I'll take you upstairs then, and I'll show you where these wind up going. But if there's 2 hammocks in here, there should be 2 chips. If I take a hammock, I just put a chip. And this system, we've changed a lot of different systems through the years, but this one has really stuck, and just for keeping control on our chameleons, because it really has worked super well.
I mean, I've used that system in the past as well. I mean, it was kind of, Toyota was the one that kind of...
Yeah. Actually, all this is lean manufacturing processes, and although I'm not going into it, man, we really geek out on that. We are always trying to get more efficient, more lean, and I practice the Toyota lean manufacturing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see it all over the place.
It's practiced everywhere for a reason. I mean, it works, and it's...
Yep. So, actually, let me take you to the chipboard. So red would be 1.6, and the wide is black, and so on. And then we also have 1.2s, and we'll go upstairs and take a look at that. This is the chipboard. So blue was the 1.0, and this is constantly changing. One thing I really like about this is my office is there. I come up the stairs, I look at the chipboard, and I can see right where we're at for production. If there are 2 chips here, that means there's 2 hammocks out. There's a lot more to this going on. Everything is skewed to the right, but when we put a chip on, although this one's wrong, when we put a chip on, we put it to the left. So, and then we'll continue over here until we get to this one. If there is a chip on this one on the far right, that means the bin is empty, and it's like an emergency situation for us. Right here you can see We are out of burnt orange 1.2 hammocks up there, and if they are turned upside down, that means they're in production. I know that they're in production, and I can totally see that. After they go through QC, they come back here, and then the chip goes back downstairs, and the process starts all over again. And this basically is a 2-week supply of all of our hammocks. So if I stopped manufacturing, on average, I can go 2 weeks with this.
Okay. As long as there's nothing up here,
yeah,
you can go 2 weeks.
Yep. If this board will get completely filled up, and that's the only time the system breaks down, is when the board completely gets filled up, because you have to manufacture everything, and that means you better be hiring. We love Jukies, so we run all these Jukies. You can see the work orders follow all of the work orders follow all the product. So this is one of those internal work orders that we make, internal purchase order, and they come up here in the staging area, and then they get distributed out to the seamstresses. I mean, this is a custom hammock that's blue on the inside. I know this hammock well. It gets naughty mods, right?
It does.
Okay.
And they're already done.
These slips, they're going to follow the product throughout the process. And just it's always exactly what the customer ordered, because this is actually the work order from the purchase order. So we know that this is going to be exactly what the customer wanted. Most of these are single stitch Jukies, and they are very fast. They do one thing and they do it extremely well. They are automatic. If you go back on the presser foot, or if you go back on the foot pedal, the presser foot lifts. If you go back hard, it cuts the thread. And these seamstresses, it's hard to find seamstresses these days. You probably saw the sign, hiring seamstresses. Yep. I'm always hiring seamstresses. There's never a time I'm not. If you come in here and you have even if I don't really need the seamstress, if you got the skill, I'll need that
Quality.
skill.
Yep.
Some point. So here's the quilted chameleons, and this is a absolute gorgeous one. So this is using our liquefy print, and we use this special material. It's downproof. These have been such a success. Actually, we're hoping to expand on this, and the quilted aspect is going to be growing very much in this company. I think it's going to be the way to go.
It makes it so much easier that you don't have to worry about the quilt shifting. You don't have to worry about, what are you buying? It's all together, and yeah. There's no air pockets. There's no saggy quilt.
Yeah. Two separate packages that
right.
fit weird into your pack and stuff like that, and it actually turns out to be lighter and also ultimately less expensive when you compare apples to apples, because you're losing when you have to put an underquilt on that hammock, you make it big, so you're not going to fall off of it. Here, if you lay in a certain direction, you're utilizing that down, which is such an expensive and crucial part to this process.
No, that makes sense. I hadn't thought about that.
I'm sorry? Okay, thank you. So it goes into quite a bit of work to make them, and the quality assurance, we have to make sure these things are really perfect. We only allow, you have to sew these baffles on the inside of the hammock fabric, and we only allow, like, your thread runs out or there's something that happens to your machine, and we only allow one time through all those stitches that can happen. And if it's 2 times, it's at best a second. Might be a reject.
Okay.
And we're
tight controls.
Since we've been doing this over a year, this Dobby fabric, we have never had a failure.
I was going to ask you about that.
Because they would be a traumatic failure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and you're gonna have, yeah, you're gonna have feathers everywhere. You're gonna
yeah.
down everywhere, and yeah,
And and the customer's going to have a very bad night that night.
right.
So, the that's always what I like to hear. No failures.
That's an excellent thing to be able to say.
Our bonding. So, the bonded tarp is such. It's the best tarp on the market. I mean, I don't want to brag. But
Agree.
the process in which we do this, the fact that this cannot leak. These two panels are bonded together, plus the reinforcement is also bonded on before we wind up hemming this up. And you don't have tarps leaking. That is so frustrating to send a customer a tarp, and they might not even use it in the rain for 3 months, 4 months, or something like that. It might be a year till they use it in the rain.
Yeah.
Because a lot of campers are like, "Oh, it's raining, I'm not going camping." But finally, they get caught in that storm, and it's 2 years down the road. And the fact that you stitched it, you put that
I
grosgrain.
forgot to seam seal it. And
Yeah, they
now
didn't
it's
seam seal it,
leaking.
and it's not a good experience for the customer. And very often we have to do something about it because their tarp leaks, and really they didn't. And the worst part about it is the ridge seam on a tarp for a hammock is right where you don't want a leak. It is the exact location.
where you don't want it.
So the bonding makes it so that they can't leak. It is so much better. It's so much cleaner. You're not perforating it, so we have less failures as far as them tearing. Because branches do hit these, and high winds do hit these. I remember that always my tie-outs. If you looked at tie-outs after any period of time, those stitches
Start to pull.
they pull, and they're going to, because you're just taking threads and you're jamming into it, and then things have to, particularly you go and you stake it out and you make it nice and taut, and the winds are blowing. Trees don't blow like this. Sometimes they blow like this, and that really pulls that ridge line, puts stresses on it, and you might not even have a leak now, but you wind up with a leak later. And if you do seam seal and you're successful at it, it still might leak down the road. And then it's even a bigger nightmare because you got to somehow seam seal something that's been seam sealed.
Right.
It's like gluing glue
Or
to
get
stop
the old seam
a
seal
dam.
off and start over, and yeah, it's a mess.
So the bonded tarps, that a lot has to go into making them, but it is so worth it. They're best tarp in the market, and then, as you know, we can print all this stuff too, which is just amazing. The quilts. So last year,
So these are Loco Libre quilts.
yeah, I am so proud to have purchased Loco Libre. I always knew that I could make quilts, but I was always like, there's really good quilt manufacturers out there. I don't really need to do it. But then Loco Libre, I knew he was shutting down his shop, so I said, hey, why don't you let me buy it? And you'll get a little something for it, and I'll continue the Loco Libre brand. And that's exactly what we've done. We've really just continued what George has done. He's been such a fantastic craftsman on this. The zigzag baffles, they truly are, I mean, they look great, yes, but it really does keep the down from shifting from side to side throughout the baffle. And you really have less cold spots. And really that's what you want. Is the foot box design. I mean, imagine this. This is your feet in this much down. This is solid down in here, and your feet really are not going to get cold in this much down.
No, definitely not.
And then the customization of his quilts. Truly, the customer's going on there and they're saying, I want it to be this width, I want it to be this length, I want it to be this weight fabric, and I want this thread used.
So you're
extra
continuing
down.
like the color threads, everything?
Absolutely, everything has been done. I think we eliminated a couple of his options and we hope to bring them back because it was overwhelming when we first got it. That you could get, but no two quilts are the same.
Yeah, and I was talking with Fee earlier, and he was talking about just like the quality control on this and making sure that you're getting it right and staying true to what George started. And I think that's absolutely awesome. I mean, I've said all along that these quilts are, I mean, I've got several Loco Libre quilts and some prototype ones that he made for me, and they're works of art. I mean, they truly are, and it's just cool to see it hasn't died off. I know that George was having trouble keeping up, and so you taking it on, I think, is awesome.
Yeah, we also have trouble keeping up. This is the one area when you order off Dutchware that you're going to get a long lead time.
Of course.
And it is.
But people have to understand when you're ordering something that's truly custom and that has that level of workmanship to it. Sometimes you got to pay more and you got to wait a little longer.
Yeah. We're gonna. We can't just have anybody jump in here and make Loco Libre quilts. So currently, we really only have one seamstress that's doing it. A couple seamstresses help sew on baffles, but even that has not been. It certainly even hasn't been fruitful for our production.
Yep.
But it's been really fun. But I really love to see the unique designs and the quality and just a one-off that's just amazing. I want to do more with this. I really want to print the chevron baffles. I want to pre-print that.
Okay.
So that you could get a quilt so it'd be like,
that'd be crazy. Yeah.
You know, blue,
different,
blue, brown, tan, blue, brown, tan. And actually that would help us for the manufacturing because that way the lines, we have to draw all these lines on here before we sew these on here.
So that might actually speed up the process.
Yeah, yes. And it would have that, you would be able to see exactly what those chevrons on there. So I've been meaning to make a quilt like that, and like one of the baffle area would have my logo and stuff. And it was going to be my personal quilt, but ultimately the customer gets to order what they get anyhow.
Yep.
Everything comes down. The manufacturing process is bringing them all down towards here, and then this is quality assurance. And the girl that works here is the perfect person for doing this, and she really makes sure that bad product does not go out the door. There can't be loose threads. She's stitching. She doesn't mind coming to me 20 times a day saying, "Is this okay?" And I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't even see this. I don't see this, but she really scrutinizes everything, and she does an absolutely fantastic job. You'll see this is also set up to be very, very, very efficient. A chameleon hammock's going to get laid out here, and we have red loops for head. We're going to make sure that the head end is always on this side, and the black loop is over there. We have our ridge lines already spliced up, and they're all right here. We keep our, right here's the zipper pulls that are all ready to go to put all of them on. Our different bags and our different stuff sacks are all right in here. And well, this
is the end of the production line.
There's a tube right here, and so after we weigh the product, we say that it was manufactured, we drop it down the tube, and it goes right down to shipping. Nobody has to walk up and down the stairs to make it even more efficient.
Genius.
Yep. I love it, and it's hammock shaped, except for quilted chameleons. That threw me for a loop. I need a bigger pipe. But this table, if you remember back down on the shipping table, was the same table.
Okay.
They used to make blinds in this place, and they had this huge table, and we cut it up and we reused it like it is a tarp fly grill, and this we had to get this up here in order to do it. We had to cut a hole in the floor. We didn't have any help, and the thing weighs like 400 pounds, and we had all of our seamstresses on the bottom and all the guys on the top, and we actually picked this thing through here. And the only way to get this thing out of here is to cut it up smaller and get it up. But you'll see there's a couple more pieces of this. It was absolutely huge.
Wow.
They have these rails over here because that's where they used to cut. Used to use that to cut the straight lines on it.
Okay.
Well, it was a great recycle of a product, and it's
reuse and
it's
keep it going.
Great big heavy table for doing that. This station here is actually for doing our different grommets and cam snaps. And one of the things we did here is we made these so that it's a foot pedal. That way you can have both your hands on the product, because very often you have to in order to do that. And also you get a little bit more pressure on it with these. So we just splice on some am steel. This one wasn't long enough, so we just tied a knot.
I like it.
We have a couple specialty machines. This is one of my favorite ones. This one actually has this has a walking foot, a walking needle, and also a puller on the back. And it really makes it so that when we sew things, they are, there's not going to be any of this, that if you sew two pieces of fabric together and one winds up being an inch longer than the other when you're all said and done. And this really makes it so that they go through even. This is something that we use for the banyan. Mark, depending on when you're releasing this video, I may or may not want this
All right, it's
put in the
time.
video.
Sorry, guys. This is the top secret area. You guys are done for now.